Hello everybody and welcome to the sixth video of our series of videos on ancient Rome. Today we will be looking at the life and death of Julius Caesar. As always, we begin our presentation with our learning outcomes, so hopefully by the end of this presentation you guys will know who the first triumvirate were, you guys will know why that triumvirate fell apart, and finally you guys will be able to list 3 accomplishments of Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar was born in 100 BCE into a patrician family. They were not the richest of patricians' family, but they had a lot of influence within Rome. In 82 BCE, at the age of 18, he was on the losing side of the civil war between Sulla and Marius. He had sided with Marius, and when Marius died, Caesar's life was in jeopardy. His life was spared thanks to his family connections, but he joined the army and went to serve in Asia away from home, just in case Sulla changed his mind about sparing his life. Sulla died in 78 BCE, and Caesar believed that now was a good time to return back to Rome. However, on his way back, he was captured by pirates who wanted 20 talents as ransom for him, which Caesar was disgusted at because he told them he was worth way more than that. So they raised the ransom to 50 talents, which Caesar had paid, and then he turned around and raised a fleet to attack the pirates, and he had them all crucified, just like he had promised them while they were captive, showing that Caesar was not a man to be messed with and a man who would keep his word. On his return to Rome, he continued to make connections in Rome, and in 70 BCE he began his political career when he was elected as a senator. At the age of 34, he was elected as an aedile. Aedile is a person who's in charge of public entertainment. He spent lavishly, put on some great games, and he won great popularity within Rome. At the age of 36, he was elected as Pontifex Maximus. This was a post for life. It was the head of the Roman religion. It brought great power, it brought great wealth, great prestige, and he also had a nice big house in the Forum in Rome as well. At the age of 39, then he became a military governor in Spain, where he earned his reputation as a great general. He subdued the warring tribes in Spain, and he brought peace to the area. Finally, at the age of 41, he was elected consul. Remember, consul is the highest office in Rome. 2 men are elected each year to be in charge of the country, of the empire, and Caesar was elected in 41 BCE. Whilst campaigning to be elected consul, he made an alliance with 2 very powerful Romans, Marcus Crassus and Pompey. Crassus we have met before. He was the man who subdued Spartacus's rebellion. He is also known as one of the richest, as possibly the richest man in the history of Rome. He even had his own private fire brigade that he wouldn't allow to put out fires unless they were paid up front. Pompey was the finest military general of the time. He'd won important battles in North Africa, which had been problematic for Rome, against a man called Jugurtha from Numidia, and he was very popular in Rome. So the 3 of these guys formed a group to help them rule. They brought popular reforms in, such as redistributing of land to the poor. After his consulship, Caesar made sure he was appointed governor of Gaul. This gave him the opportunity to command troops again and to conquer territory, and also gave him the opportunity to get wealthier. Caesar showed himself to be a genius army commander, and over the 8 years he served as governor for Gaul. He subdued all the Gallic tribes, bringing it under Roman control. He also ended up conquering Belgium and parts of Britain as well. Caesar wrote a book about all his successes called the Gallic Wars, which was redistributed back in Rome and led to his popularity increasing massively. However, all was not rosy, as the end of the triumvirate was to come. Licinius Crassus had died in battle in Parthia. The Senate had convinced Pompey to oppose Caesar rather than continue to work with him. And the Senate ordered Caesar to return to from Gaul to Rome, where he had served for the last 8 years. They wanted him to come home, leave his army there, and to stand trial on charges of corruption. Caesar, of course, disobeyed this order and he marched his army across the Rubicon River in 49 BCE. This was illegal, and this crossing the Rubicon River was an illegal thing to do, and this is why we have the phrase today, crossing the Rubicon. And this is a way of saying you're passing the point of no return. Pompey and the leading senators, they fled to Greece when Caesar arrived in with his army. They fled to Greece to raise an army. Caesar gained control then of Italy and Rome and Spain. He arrived in Greece. He was outnumbered 2-1 when he faced Pompey in Greece, but he still defeated him. You see here in Greece, and then Pompey fled here to Egypt. And when he went to Egypt, he was assassinated by the king of Egypt, Ptolemy the 13th. However, Caesar wasn't happy with this, as he didn't want Pompey assassinated. So he helped to overthrow Ptolemy the 13th, and this allowed Cleopatra to become the sole queen of Egypt, who was the sister of Ptolemy. As the civil war had gone on, Caesar had been appointed a dictator. And when Pompey was defeated, he continued to defeat enemies of Rome. He had campaigns here in Africa and Spain. Caesar became more and more popular with the people. He brought in more reforms, made the plebeians pleased with him. He introduced reforms like he brought in a new calendar. It was 365 days long, as opposed to the previous calendar, which was 355 days long. But the Senate feared that Caesar would actually end up getting rid of them, as he had been ruling without their approval for the previous 4 years, without any consultation with them. So a group of over 50 senators decided that they were not ready to relinquish power and control of Rome to this one man, to Caesar. So they conspired to murder him on the 15th of March, 44 BCE, known as the Ides of March. They invited him in to be crowned and declared the king of Rome. He arrived to find the 50 senators with knives hidden in their togas, including one of his closest friends, Brutus, and they proceeded to stab Caesar to death there. So that brings us to the end of our presentation on Julius Caesar. So you guys should now know who the first triumvirate were. So you guys should know it consisted of Crassus, Caesar, and Pompey. You guys should know why it failed. Once Crassus died, that Pompey was convinced by the Senate to turn against Caesar. And finally, you guys should be able to list some of Caesar's accomplishments. That's the end of the presentation. Thanks for watching.